This is Outlander Science Club, brought to you by Desiree Andrews, midwife, and Karen Doherty, emergency physician. Claire loves science, and so do we. Come with us as we investigate the science and medicine from the worlds of Outlander.
Hello, and welcome back to the Outlander Science Club. This is Desiree Andrews bringing you this installment, and we will be looking into the wonderful and mysterious world of head lice and its treatment. Woo! How excited are you? Are you itching yet? I will tell you, researching this topic, I was itching quite readily, and still am if I'm to be honest. So why are we talking about head lice? Well, it's a huge issue in the 18th century. People don't bathe, their clothes are not laundered regularly, and they could be in close quarters. So in this case, it's because in Voyager, when Jamie and Claire finally come back together after she is taken off the Artemis onto the Porpoise and escapes and finds herself with Lawrence Stern and Father Fogden, the priest, that's where Jamie ends up showing back up because the Artemis was beached in that storm. And he has a very beardy beard, and it's crawling with lice. Ew. Okay. As a mother, I am thankful I've gotten through 4 children, and they're nearly all adults now, and we've never had lice one time. It's by the grace of God go we, because I know it happens all the time. And actually, treatments are getting more challenging because lice are smart, and all the shampoos are becoming less effective. What Claire did in Voyager was she asked for the strongest vinegar that Murphy had in the kitchen. And she proceeds to douse Jamie's head and his beard in it and comb and comb and comb. So she would get rid of the adult lice as well as the eggs. Would that be an effective treatment? Well, yes and no, and we'll get to that in just a moment. The first thing I did was I pulled up the CDC guidelines, and the Latin name for head lice is Pediculus humanus capitis. It sounds so interesting, doesn't it? Well, what does the CDC have to say about it? They're saying that they definitely recommend treatment if somebody has an active infestation. All household members and others close in contact should be checked. Those persons with evidence of an active infestation should be treated. Some experts believe prophylactic treatment is prudent to do for persons who share the same bed with the actively infected individual. I would agree with that. It'd be more of a slash and burn situation. Everybody gets looked at and all beds stripped, everything taken care of. The type of medicine that kills lice is called pediculicides, like homicide, pediculicide. And they have an effect that kills eggs, which is called ovicidal. Homicidal, ovicidal. But they can have varying levels of being able to kill the eggs or not. And if they are weak at killing eggs, it needs to be much more routine. In those that are more strongly ovicidal, retreatment is only recommended if live crawling lice are still present several days after the treatment. To be most effective, retreatment should occur after all the eggs have hatched before new eggs are produced. So that's why combing those nits out is very important to get rid of them. Now, one of the most common treatments, if you don't want to have to use anything, is shaving the head. Now, that's really simple to do often for little boys. And if you have a little girl who doesn't mind having her hair shaved off, it would be fine too. I probably would have opted for the head shave if I were 5 years old and got lice. I would not want to sit for hours and hours of combing and application of treatment. When we're looking at other things that are involved in treating lice, hats, scarves, pillowcases, bedding, clothing, and towels have to be washed and dried using hot water and hot air cycle, because lice and eggs are killed by exposure for 5 minutes to temperatures greater than 128.3 Fahrenheit. Items that cannot be laundered may be dry cleaned or sealed in a plastic bag for 2 weeks. Items such as hats, grooming aids, or towels that come in contact with the hair of an infested person should not be shared. Vacuuming furniture and floors can remove an infested person's hairs that might have viable nits attached. So there are multiple things that need to be done. Before applying treatment, it may be helpful to remove clothing that can become wet or stained during the treatment. Apply lice medicine, also called pediculicide, according to the instructions contained on the box or printed on the label. It may be necessary to use a second bottle if somebody has very long hair. Pay special attention to the instructions on the label about how long the medication should be left on the hair and how it should be washed out. And that's going to be to whatever lice treatment you buy. It's available at any type of drugstore or store like Walmart or Target. It might also be available at the larger grocery store chains. The infested person then has to put on clean clothing after the treatment, and if you find a few live lice 8 to 12 hours after treatment, but they're moving more slowly, do not retreat. It may take the medicine a little longer to kill it all. Comb any dead and remaining live lice out of the hair using a fine-toothed nit comb. But if after 8 to 12 hours no dead lice are found and lice seem to be active, the medicine may not be working. At this point, you may want to talk to your family practitioner or nurse practitioner, pediatrician about what to do next, because it may require something that's a prescription and not over-the-counter, like the ones we've just talked about. There are several types of prescription medications that may be used. They are numerous, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but these require a visit to your family practitioner, nurse practitioner, or pediatrician to get. Maybe even a walk-in clinic could handle it. So the CDC, which is Centers for Disease Control, doesn't offer up any of the natural remedies, say like Claire would use, or what would be used even in the 20th century. So let's talk about vinegar, because that's what Claire did. She had asked for the strongest vinegar to be brought from Murphy the cook, and her plan was to douse Jamie's hair and beard in it and comb it out. Now, vinegar on its own, whether it's white vinegar, some type of wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar that's raw and unfiltered, has limitations. It doesn't kill adult lice. So if there are crawlers in there, there needs to be an additional treatment, which we'll get to in just a moment. But the eggs are what is affected by the vinegar. Why is it affected by it? Well, acetic acid is in vinegar, and it actually loosens the glue-type substance that attaches the lice egg to the shaft of the hair. So then you're able to comb out the eggs before they've hatched. It's highly effective on that. And if you want to minimize the smell, you would just mix vinegar with shampoo. It's really up to you if you don't want to go around smelling like an Italian salad. What that means is, upon Claire inspecting Jamie's beard and head, if she'd seen any live crawling lice, she would have to do something additionally. Now, let's just say, for the sake of things, she only found eggs, which would be highly suspicious since he's had lice for a while. So here are some other ways to get rid of the adult lice in combination with using the vinegar treatment. One would be tea tree oil, also known as melaleuca. Tea tree oil works because it has terpenoids in it, which are antiseptic and antifungal. And one of its main components, terpenin 4-OL, has insecticidal power and kills head lice by acting upon their nervous systems. This does not kill the lice eggs, though. So in order for that to happen, you would use the tea tree oil treatment and then do the vinegar treatment, and then double check in 8 to 12 hours to see if there were any crawlers still, and to look and see if any of those eggs were left behind after thorough combing. And Claire could have probably gotten a hold of that somewhere, but maybe not on the islands. But she has other things at her disposal. We could buy it in the form of tea tree oil shampoo. It is widely available at health food stores, the larger grocery stores that have a health section, and it could even be available at Target. The next thing we're going to talk about is olive oil. It also gets rid of the adult lice, but doesn't work on the eggs. So, how does that work? Well, to apply it heavily to the hair, and then put a tight shower cap around the head and leave it on for 3 hours, and then could regularly wash, then comb out the dead lice, and follow that up with the vinegar treatment to loosen those eggs and comb again. Now, Claire didn't really have 3 hours. They had a wedding to get ready for. Remember Marceline and Fergus? They were getting married on the beach that night, and Jamie had to be lice-free if he wanted to sleep with Claire. This one wouldn't have worked unless they had several more hours at hand. The next option would be to use simple mayonnaise. Mayonnaise would be used the same way as the olive oil, and you have to use full-fat mayonnaise, and then follow up with the capping for several hours, washing, combing out the dead lice, and then following up with the vinegar treatment to loosen those eggs and comb free. Yay! So thankfully, we do have other options besides the over-the-counter medicines or prescriptions that we need. Now, just like with what the CDC recommends, the clothing has to be contended with, your furniture, carpets, bedding, pillowcases, maybe even pillows, hats, gloves, scarves, anything that's coming in contact with the head. That goes across the board. Now, I did come across a few other ways to get rid of head lice. Now, Claire would not have access to most of this in the 18th century. One is heated air, such as a hairdryer, and it will kill up to 98% of eggs and 80% of the nits. But it's a long-term commitment, and it needs to be done repeatedly every day for 7 days. And that covers the cycle of a typical infestation. The next thing that can be done, as we've already talked about, is combing. But it's continually combing, as you need to brush the hair anywhere from 1 to 1.5 hours every day. You can use water and shampoo to make the process easier. Who in the world has up to 90 minutes every day to be doing this? But Claire would have had access to that if she didn't have vinegar. Electric combs are also another idea. They're powered by a small battery with alternating positive and negatively charged prongs that zaps the critters as their bodies close the circuit. Such metal combs can work really well in long hair, although for short hair, plastic non-electric combs are most often recommended. Man, I would sacrifice the hair. So depending on the amount of time that you have, the amount of people in your home who could be infested is what you're going to choose. And I would recommend starting with the more natural treatments. I mean, using vinegar and tea tree oil or vinegar and olive oil. Those are normally things that we have on hand in our kitchen already. And of course, like I said, shaving a head and then handling all the clothing items, household items, anything that could be affected by the infestation would be simpler. Now, it really depends on your family structure, the amount of time that you have, what's available on hand for you to decide what sort of treatment is best. But just remember, with the natural treatments such as the vinegar, unless there are no live lice, you have to have a follow-up, meaning the olive oil, the tea tree oil, or even mayonnaise. It's a process of killing the eggs and the live lice. And now that you are all thoroughly itching, I hope that you have learned something today about how to treat lice. And I cannot imagine how infested people were back in the 17th century based on how little things were washed. Thankfully, when they did wash their clothes, it was in boiling water so they could take care of it. Thank you for joining me on this Outlander Science Club, and you can find us on Twitter at Outlander Sci and Outlander Science page on Facebook. You can find Karen at Outlander Medicine, and of course you can find me at A Dram of Outlander. You can also leave a voicemail at the listener line at 719-425-9444 with comments, questions, ideas for Outlander Science Club topics. We really want to hear from you. And of course, before you treat, stop and ask, what would Claire do? Bye-bye for now.